have no glasses, so I'm going to do my best to read. Book of Psalms, chapter 73. And I've got quite a bit of reading that I'm going to do this morning. But I'll try not to hold this too long. I usually don't. But I've had this thought on my mind for a couple of weeks now. And we'll see what the Lord has for us. Psalm chapter 73. We'll start reading at verse 1. It says, truly God is good to Israel, even to such as are of a clean heart. But as for me, my feet were almost gone. My steps had well nigh slipped. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain, violence covereth them as a garment. Their eyes stand out with fatness, they have more than heart could wish. They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppressions, they speak lawfully. They set their mouth against the heavens, and their tongue walketh through the earth. Therefore his people returneth hither, and waters of a full cup are wrung out of them. And they say, how doth God know? And is there knowledge in the Most High? Behold, these are in the ungodly who prosper in the world. They increase in riches. Verily I cleanseth my heart in vain, and washeth my hands in innocency. For all the day long have I been plagued and chastened every morning. I say, I will speak thus, behold, I should offend against the generation of thy children. When I thought to know this, it was too painful for me, till I went into the sanctuary of God. Then understood I therein. Surely thou didst set them in slippery places. Thou castest them down into destruction. How are they brought into the desolation, as in a moment they are utterly consumed with treacherous. As a dream when one awaketh, so, O Lord, when thou awakest, thou shalt despise their image. Thus my heart was grieved, and I was pricked in my reins. So foolish was I, and ignorant I was as a beast before thee. Nevertheless, I am continually with thee. Thou hast holden me by my right hand. Thou shalt guide me with thy counsel, and afterward receive me to glory. Whom have I in heaven but thee? And there is none upon earth that I desire besides thee. My flesh and my heart faileth, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. For lo, they that are far from thee shall perish. That hast destroyed all them, thou hast destroyed all them that go a whoring from thee. But it is good for me to draw near to God. I have put my trust in the Lord God. I may declare all thy works. Thank you for standing for the reading. And maybe sorry about the lengthiness of it, but I felt like it was important for us to see the point of the thought that I have on my mind this morning. And but I thought a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, maybe, Sister Kathy and I, we had just purchased the little camper trailer we got, and maybe the one we had before that probably. And it didn't take us long to realize that we like small campers, but one we had was way too small. And but we got out on Saturday mornings. We would take a little trip, go to different places and see their campgrounds and check things things out, see before we thought we might want to go camping. And we found out we don't go much further than Boothboro most of the time. But anyway, we went to Cumberland Falls. And as far as I know, maybe whenever I was a little child, Mom and Dad may have took me there. I don't know. But I had never been to Cumberland Falls that I remember. I don't remember, ever seeing it. And so we went and we walked out and went down on the observation deck thing they had there and to look at the falls. And I thought as I stood there and I looked at the falls and they were beautiful. Just watching the water roll, and I like to hear the water. I like to see the water. I enjoyed that. But as we stood there on the observation deck, I began to look around, and Brother Steve, my mind was taken away from the beauty and the splendor of those falls because of all the trash that had washed up. You look down on the rocks, there was coolers, there was old tires, there was all kinds of pop bottles, just about any kind of trash you could imagine had floated up and had been trapped in those rocks. So with all the beauty of the falls that I had never been able to see, and I was in my mid-40s before I ever got to see it, I was taken away from that because of all of the trash. And I began to think about that, and I thought as I read this here, and this is a Psalm of Asaph, and and he knew the glories of God. He knew that there was a mighty God. God used him to write a psalm, and I thought that several of the psalms. But the thing that Asaph done was he got his mind off God. Yeah. And he got his mind on all the trash that was around him. And I began to think about that, and I thought, there's different places I could have stood where that all I could see was the falls, and I could see the beauty of that. Right. But where the observation deck was, where you could see the best view of that, you had to look at all the trash in order to get a view of it. And I thought that a lot of times we're trying to do the same thing with God. We see all the beauty, all the splendor of God, but yet we get ourselves focused on all the trash. Right. And I thought if I could this morning, I'd like to title this, Where You Stand Makes a Difference in the View. And I thought a lot of times we are standing in a place. I thought, a lot of people, and I love my family. Don't get me wrong there. I love family. I love talking to family. We have family reunions. You get together. Sometimes the only time you see them is at a family reunion or someone passes away. But you enjoy your family. But the problem is a lot of times our family can get so far away from God that if we spend a lot of time with them, Sister Marcia, we find ourselves depressed. Yes, sir. We find ourselves overwhelmed. We find ourselves listening to problems that we'd really rather not have. I thought several years ago I had a Facebook page, and I thought and I got to reading those Facebook posts, and I found myself depressed. Absolutely. Brother Steve, I got in a bad shape. I'm reading all this stuff, and I'm like, what's wrong? So I thought, well, I'm going to get rid of all the people I went to school with. I'm going to get rid of all this, and I'm just going to keep down to family. And Brother Harold, I'm sorry, but I realized this is where my depression's coming from. I've never been a depressed person in my life. But it was the things that I was viewing, the things that I was reading and taking in. And I thought, if we're not careful, if you got a Facebook page, that's between you and God. But I thought if we get captivated with this stuff, and I thought that's all we're looking at, where we're standing makes a difference of what we're seeing. Come on. That's right. I thought, like I said, I've always loved, I like the water. Sister Kathy and I, last time we went, I think it was right after Sister Laura and my brother Lester got married, we went to Myrtle Beach. And we could have probably done without even getting in on the sand. We got us a motel room on the beach, and we sat there on our balcony and we just watched the water. That's what we went there for. And I thought I don't have to get out in the water. But the thing about it is there is so much in between where your balcony is and where that water line is, that you really prefer not to go there. Because there's a lot of junk in between what you're there for and where you're at. And I thought it's the same thing with serving God. There's a lot of things that can get in between where we're at and the focus that we should have with our life. But I thought it's where we're standing that makes the difference.
Yes, it does.
I thought I could go down, Brother Tom, and go down to the water, stand on the edge of the water and look out. All I could see was the water. There was nothing between me and the thing that I went to see. But the further away from that I got, well, I didn't know this ain't even my notes, but the further away from that I got, the more of the corruption, the more of the ungodliness that is in our view. But I thought as long as we're close to what we should have our view on, the where we're standing makes a difference in what we're seeing. I thought one day there were 6 blind men that decided to go to the zoo. And you got blind men. They're going to the zoo. I like to hear the sounds. But they hired a guide to tell them about the things and the exotic animals that they couldn't see, and to try to describe them to them. And so when they came to the elephant, the zookeeper decided that he wanted them to have a more than a verbal description. So he allowed them to feel the elephant to get a description of that elephant, so they could get a mind of what it felt like. And so the first man, he reached out and he grabbed the tail of the elephant. And so the man got a mental focus that the elephant was like a big rope. That's all he seen. He felt the big rope. So the next man, he walked up to the massive leg of this elephant, and he stood there. And as he reached out and he felt and he put his arms around it, he described the elephant as a large tree. And so the third man, when he walked forward, he walked straight into the side of the elephant, whereupon he pronounced the elephant was as a really big wall. And so are you getting my point here? Yeah. The next blind man, he reached out and he took hold of one of the elephant's ears. And so as he touched that elephant's ear, the elephant began to move his ear. And so this man got a mind visual, if you would, of the elephant as a large fan. And so the fifth man, he decided that the first 4 were all slightly, as they began to describe this creature, he thought there's no way that this thing could be all of what they're describing. So he walks up to the elephant, he grabs it by the trunk, and he begins to describe the elephant as a large snake. As it began to wrap its trunk around his arms and all the things. And so he says, no, you're all wrong. It's this large snake. So finally the last man, he walked up and he grabbed the elephant by its large tusk. And he said, no, the elephant is none of that, but it is a large sword. And I thought, so the zookeeper and the guide smiled at one another, knowing that none of them had really got a good visual of what the elephant was. The reason was every one of them were standing in a different place. They couldn't see. All they could do was feel. And they all had a different visual of what they were looking at. And I thought, so the problems in which we face every day, it makes a difference where we're standing on what we're seeing. And I thought the problem is many times we're standing in a place. Like I said about the ocean, we've got too much between us and the water line to get a good visual of what God created. Rather, we're seeing all the sin and all the perversion that's going on in this world, rather than seeing what God put out there for us to see. A lot of times in the spiritual realm, there is so much out there that we could be viewing, but instead instead we're allowing so much to get between us and what we should be looking at. I thought there's just so much there. I thought at work, I don't know why this came to mind, but the new owner, he got on the phone with AT&T, and he came in there the other day and he said, has anybody ever really talked to AT&T about the price of a phone bill? I don't guess. I don't even know what the phone bill costs. That's not in my territory. He said, well, I have. I talked to him today, and he said, I'm going to save us $500 a month. Now, you remember now, Uncle Charlie's got 6 phone lines coming in the plant plus internet. We got 2 phone lines up at the store and all that stuff. And he said, but I've got to do a package combo. He said, so we're going to put a TV in the break room and one up the store. And I said, man, that ain't going to fly. Because they're going to be in there loafing, and how much go in there and drag people away from the TV. And but to my surprise, Brother Steve, they haven't. And I was talking to Sister Kathy about it last night. I said, I'm surprised that they ain't just congregating every time they go out. But the thing is, they're all used to it. They already have them at home. So they're not going to just go out there and sit down. But they got their favorite things. One guy was at the break room one day. He called off a number to put it on, and he said maybe Bonanza or Gunsmoke's on. So he liked the westerns. Another guy came in. He punched in. I don't even know what number they punched in. He punched one in, and he went to a show, and all it does was build old hot rods and cars, and that's what he liked. And this is on our lunch breaks and different things. But as far as congregated, they didn't. Because they were used to it. But the thing about what brought this to my mind was the problem with us a lot of times as Christians. We come up on these things that we shouldn't have our mind and our focus on, and we're taken back by them. And we find ourselves drawn to them because we're so unaccustomed to these things. And I thought, so Asaph, as he looked, and maybe you think, well, how are you getting this scripture and go in this direction with it? But Asaph, as he looked at the ungodly, and he looked at the way they were prospering, and he began to covet, the things that they were doing. He began to look at, this over here, and I've said that before. I remember one time I looked at there was a guy I worked with, and he had a new camper. He had a brand new truck to pull with, and he had another truck that he drove to work. And he had a brand new 4-wheeler. He had a brand new bass boat. And when he went to the campground, he looked like a train. He had a truck, a camper, and a bass boat behind it, all going down the interstate. Pulled them, in sequence like that. And if he didn't want to do that, his wife had a brand new SUV, and he hooked the boat behind it. But most of the time, she hooked the trailer, and they took their golf carts or whatever, so they'd have something to ride on when they got to the camp. And I looked at all that, and I'm thinking, man, how in the world is this guy doing all this? And I begin to, maybe even go as far as time to covet. Big boys like toys too. It's just we do. And I begin to covet after the things that he had. And then I realized, but this is all that he's got. If he dies in his sin, Brother Steve, he's going to hell. And I begin to realize that, thank goodness, he's got himself in church, and he's doing good. Last time I talked to him, doing real good. Playing his music in church and just, very active in his church. And I'm tickled to death about that. But I begin to look at all that, and I begin to see the things that he had in the physical life, but we forget to look at the spiritual life. It all depends on where we're standing, on what we're seeing. And I thought, so that's what Asaph was. He was looking at the prosperity of the wicked instead of looking at what God could do for him. And I thought, I look back now and I realized, God's blessed us abundantly. I've got a lot more toys than I really need. And most of us, we look at them, and we all do. We've got things that we don't have to have, but it's just simply things God has blessed us with. And but we get all this, and we've already got this. It's not new to us no more. So we begin to look at all the things that the others are congregating with. There are all other things that are gathered. Where we're standing makes a difference on what we're seeing.
That's right.
I thought, I don't know about you, but I want to have my focus upon what God would have for me.
Right.
I thought, I'm going to soon close. I got a lot of things here, and I don't think I'm going to go with all of it this morning.
If you've got.
But just to give you a little insight of how we do. I never will forget, I was probably right at 16-year-old, if not already 16. But I didn't have a vehicle to drive yet. So I'm thinking I was probably around 15. Because Jerry, the guy I'm fixing to talk about, was just a little older than me when we went to school. But I went to Christian school. One day we got out of school and I was with Mom. And for some reason we went to West Urban Elementary to pick up my cousin Jeff. And so when we pulled into the school, I seen this pretty blue Camaro pull in. And And a boy that I went to grade school with, by the name of Jerry, and I'm just going to leave it there, he got out of the car. And I thought, man, me and him were best friends in grade school. Here I was, already in high school. And like I said, I started going to Christian school when I was in the 6th grade. I'd lost contact with him. But he got out, and he had a brother that was the same age as my cousin Jeff. And so he came to West Urban to pick up his little brother, driving that shiny Camaro. And I thought, man, I was envious of it, Brother Steve. Man, look what he's got. And I ain't got that. And, I'll probably never, I'll probably never have a Camaro. Close I ever came to one was having one myself, as David had one for a while, and I got to drive it, But I looked at that and I became envious of him. But what I did not see about Jerry was how he got that Camaro. His dad had died the death of an alcoholic. And because of the life insurances and the things that he had, his mother had put back enough money. And I knew Jerry's dad had died when we were in grade school. I remember when he came to school and his dad had passed away, or didn't come to school, and they said, his dad had passed away. And just bad thing, just a kid. But I still had my dad. And I didn't understand that insurance money is what bought Jerry's car. And what I did not also understand was Jerry, at the age of 16-year-old, was battling the same thing that had taken his dad's life.
Right.
See, where I was standing, all I could see was that shiny blue Camaro.
Right.
I couldn't see the battle that was inside of this young man. And I thought, so I looked at that and I became envious of it, not realizing that before the summer was up, that I would be over at Granny's one day, and they lived there in town, and Frankie came in and he said, Jerry has been killed in a car wreck. I said, no. So me and him, he was in Lewis's funeral home, we walked in, and I walked in, and his mother demanded that he have open casket whenever he should not have had open casket, because the same alcoholism that had taken Jerry's daddy's life had taken Jerry's life. I thought a boy that I grew up with, and I looked at him and I was envious of the things he had, but I was not standing in the proper place to see the things that Jerry was going through. I didn't see the alcoholism. I didn't see all the turmoil, the trouble that was in his life. All I could see was the flashiness of it.
Yes, sir.
Where we're standing makes a difference on what we're seeing. I thought, I don't know who I'm talking to this morning. And I thought, we need to make sure that we've got our focus on the things that God has for us to be looking at. I thought, one of the most foolish things that we can deal with is the foolishness of self. Simply me. And I thought, if I could ever conquer me, well, Tom, I've conquered a whole lot. Because me wants to arise. This old self that's inside of me wants to arise up above and get off the focus of what God would have me be looking at. As they come and get us a song this morning, I know it wouldn't hold you long, but I feel like I've got a lot of things here. But I feel like that I've got where God wants us to be this morning. Because I feel like there's some of us that the reason we're struggling is we're not keeping our focus on what needs to be. I thought if I could have gotten down into the Cumberland River, Brother Steve, and looked up at the falls, all that trash would have been out of sight.
Right.
Because it was up in those rocks, way up in those rocks. If you've ever been there, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But the problem was I had to be up there where I had to look at the trash to see the beauty and the splendor of the creation of God.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same way with going to the ocean. Sister Kathy and I, we want to go back. And we about decided if we go back for what we want to go to the ocean for, we're going to go in the winter. That way there ain't no garbage out there. And we can just sit on the balcony in about 65-degree weather, which is perfect for me.
Perfect.
And I can sit there if I have to wear a hoodie. I've got an announcement that says National Rifle Association right on the front of it. I'll wear that one. And I'll sit up there on the balcony and I can just look at all the beauty and the splendor of God created without having all the trash of the world between me and what I want to look at.
Yes.
And I thought we need to do the same thing spiritually.
Yeah.
We need to get in a place where there's no trash between us and what God's wanting us to look at. Don't be looking at the wickedness and the things of this world,
Right.
but keep our focus on the things of God.
Right.
Don't be looking at the prosperity of the wicked,
Right.
because we know where their prosperity and their wickedness is going to take them. But as Asaph said, my feet had well nigh slipped. But he said, but thus my heart was grieved, and I was pricked in my reins. So foolish was I, and ignorant I was, as a beast before thee. Nevertheless, I have continued with thee, and thou hast holden me by my right hand. Thou shalt guide me with thy counsel, and afterward receive me to thy glory. All those things that we're looking to in this world are only going to detour us and draw us away. But if we can keep our eyes and our focus upon God and let Him guide us with our right hand. You know, that right hand is a hand that it's most of them. Rosa Parks is left-handed, Brother Lester's left-handed, maybe some more. Walked in the other day, and new boss, he was sitting here upside down writing. Another lefty. You know, it's just odd. Because, you know, most of us, it's our right hand. But even a left-handed person, they walk up to shake hands, they're going to shake with that right hand. Because it's that hand of predominance.
Right. Yeah.
And for God to reach down and guide us
Yes.
with that right hand.
All right.
Why that right hand is one we use to draw us away, to keep us in trouble. If we keep it in the hand of God, it will lead us.
Right.
If we keep our focus upon the things of God. Not just stand where we see all the things, just get one visual focus on how things. But take in the whole scope. What if those blind men had begun to walk around? One had it by the tail and then walked up and felt that massive leg. Went down that body and then up on that ear, down that trunk, and then felt that big tusk. He would have seen that elephant for the mighty beast that it was.
Yeah.
But instead, he just fell on a little rope.
Come on.
Just a simple rope. Something that would tie him up and could bind him.
Yeah.
Instead of the fierceness of what it really was. As they give us a song this morning, I hope I've helped you. I thought, what are you focusing on this morning? Where are you standing this morning?
Right.
Are you standing where that you can see the beauty of God, His creation, and the beauty of God for who He is? Or are you standing in a place where you're all the time getting distracted, pulled away from where God wants you to be? As they give us a song this morning, let's pray. Let's come to this altar to talk to God.
Yes.
See where you're standing this morning. And don't allow those things to captivate you and continue to draw you away. Let's all pray this.